Good evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm your host. Tonight the topic is coronavirus impact on real estate. I'm honored the presence of my friend Brian Madigan. He's a broker real estate with REMAX, and we will be joining us Muhammad Alam, a litigation lawyer, very soon by the phone to answer any legal or litigation question regarding breach of contracts or consequences of failed lease, because coronavirus has impacted all of us. Thank you. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Tahir, my name is Brian Madigan, and I practiced law for a period of 25 years. And subsequently, after my law practice, have been in the real estate business for about the last 20. One component of that is when I was practicing law, I happened to be involved acting for hospitals, and so we were drafting up infectious disease protocols. So this is coming right back into the fore again. I don't think that there was anybody else that would talk about it.
That's great. So now, as you know, that the provincial government has declared emergency and locked down our services. It has impacted the entire business in Ontario and across Canada. Particularly in Ontario, people are losing job, there's no business, and they declare essential services only to do business. And real estate is also part of the essential services, but it's not business as usual. And Real Estate Council has given some guidance on that. So what do you think, how would see this, because there are lots of buyers who have bought properties, there are lots of sellers who has sold their property, but they bought another houses.
Yes.
So there are multiple impact if case deals are not being finalized. So what your...
Yeah, so the first group are the people that have already done deals.
Yeah.
And they have been blindsided by the difficulties that are presenting themselves today. And that, to a large degree, is the essential service.
Yes.
That is, real estate agents and as lawyers come forward to deal with those deals. The other category is really, in a sense, kind of non-essential.
Correct.
And that is people that would like to sell, maybe were planning on selling, but really don't have to. And if those transactions can be delayed, then there would be a modest impact on them. The people that are fundamentally at risk are the people who have those deals that are where they've sold or they've bought, and they're locked into a transaction going forward.
So I think we are waiting for Mr. Alam to call us, because we're going to talk about legal issues,
yes,
how impact will be. The other issue is when you're talking about ongoing sale of houses, people who have bought it, they're planning to close it, but now they can't sell their house because restrictions are that you can virtually show the house to avoid any potential coronavirus spread, because
yes,
when people are going into the houses, they're touching things, and somebody's sick, we don't know. So there is a call. Let me take the call. Hello, you are on Realty Coffee Talk. Mr. Alam, thank you very much for dialing in.
Absolutely, that's not a problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay, thank you. We were just talking about this, me and Brian. Brian Madigan is with me. He's also a mortgage broker, and he was a lawyer before, and he's going to get his license back soon. And we're going to ask both of us, going to ask you a question about, we have a multiple deals that already been executed now, and they are reaching a point of closing, and what will happen if they don't close? And you have a buyer who has sold their house, a seller who has sold their house, but they already bought a new transaction. There are multiple people involved. So how is going to be handled by a legal point of view?
So, Brian, obviously, first of all, thank you for joining us at this talk show.
Very much so.
Absolutely. So, is this the question for me?
Yes.
Or how do you want
Yes,
to address?
it is for you. It's for you to answer.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, here's the situation. Obviously, there are lots needs, obviously, to be waiting for like what is going to happen with this situation. But the hypothetical situation that you're putting, and it would be the same as we have seen in 2017 and 18 when market crash, and there were deals people have entered into some sort of agreement of purchase and sale. The buyers were getting out. There is always a legal liability. So even in this situation today, as you said, like there are a lot of people, they already have sold their house. They have bought another house. They have entered into purchase and sales agreement with for the other house. But if you are unable to close the deal today, potentially your legal liability is not going to go away just because of the situation is the COVID-19 situation is going on in the city and town and our country. Legal implication will still be there. The seller, it still has right. If you do not close the deal, they can come after you because of any damages or losses that they have suffered or will suffer. So, for example, a seller, who sold the house for $900,000 today, and you are unable to close the deal, and somehow market goes down, and you back out because you are unable to close the deal. Bank has not concluded your mortgage and has not approved your mortgage, and you are unable to close it. The seller will have the liberty to sell his property at whatever cost, whatever price that is available. And if he sells for less than what you have agreed, then potentially the seller can come after you for those losses, and then the legal situation and legal liability will not be absorbed just because of this current situation. Until this government will pass a regulation or some legislation.
Yeah, I will point.
So there's no such thing.
Yeah, here is a problem. We just got a real estate consultant here. You give some directives that you really avoid physically showing the house is for sale. Okay, use virtual tour or use floor plan, digitize. The issue is that if a realtor is helping someone to sell the house when we have this coronavirus and also declaration of emergency, what will be the litigation or what kind of a potential liabilities for the realtor or even the owner of the house who is allowing someone to come in? If somebody discovered that somebody got hurt because of coronavirus, 3 months later they discover that, they can accuse you. In that situation, what will happen then?
Well, certainly one of the things is there is coverage available under the E&O insurance coverage available for real estate agents, but it's limited to $50,000, which in the case of the coronavirus isn't going to go very far. It's fine for a young person to recover maybe within a week or two, and that's not consequential. But if you have a death, you're looking at very substantial damages, so the $50,000 wouldn't come close to it.
So how would a person in this situation can protect themselves? I understand there is a breach of contract now or default on the agreement. So how we mitigate this liability? What is your advice?
Is this question for me or for Brian?
For you.
Okay, for me. So, you know what? The one thing that, as I said, as you were stating, the real estate, obviously, board or your governing body is giving some guidelines. And obviously, all these guidelines are just to protect you from legal liability. Because I can tell you this as a litigator, or maybe Brian was adding certain things just before I started talking. Your legal liability still be there. There will be some lawyer, if there is a fatality, if somebody, recover from coronavirus, probably not a big deal. But if somebody died as a result and the deceased family or estate were able to connect the dot that this virus started from this house, then not only the real estate agent who was showing the house may be at potential at risk for liability, but the house owner who has allowed a potential buyer to come to their house if there's some risk. So, I mean, I obviously tell everybody, like, listen, we all have to be very careful. Obviously, first of all, we don't want anybody to get injured or hurt or lose their life. So, precautionary measures you have to take, not to expose other people, because even your own client can come after you as a real estate agent. So if I am your client and I got sick because you took me to a place where somebody was already infected, and I came across with that house, and so I have, you are putting yourself as a legal liability, because I can come after you as my agent, that you exposed me to the situation.
Yeah, this is very, very dangerous situation, as well as you know, livelihood of the real estate is depending, buying and selling, and we are mostly self-employed. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to pick up another call, then I will call back to you, okay? Just please stay on the line.
Absolutely.
Hello, welcome to Realty Coffee Talk. You're live.
Yes, Mr. Tahir, I am watching your program. It's very interesting in the current scenario of this corona and the real estate market. I just want to ask you one question, actually. How you foresee, based on your experience, because you are an experienced realtor, I know, how are you going to foresee the market in the next 5-6 months ahead? Because I saw a lot of layoff. Just for giving you an example, in the airline industry, I saw like maybe 15,000-20,000 layoff in the last 2 months, and it's keep on growing up. It's building up actually with the industries. How are you going to see the market, the future of the market for the next few months?
Okay, I will answer your question, but I'm going to have some history. Brian has some history he's going to share with you in this situation, what happens, and then I'll give you my point of view after. Okay, you're most welcome.
Sure.
Brian, go ahead.
Well, the interesting thing, it's a very important question, and it's probably one of the things that's on just about everybody's mind. There's a couple of things. SARS took place in 2003, and there was absolutely no impact month to month on the real estate values in the GTA. That's Toronto and vicinity. Second thing was we had a major stock market crash that took place, a decline that took place in 2007, a major crash that took place in October of 2008,
Yeah.
and it still continued until the final bailout of GM in June of 2009. So that recovery there, depending on how you measure it, was either 4 months from the very bottom or spanned a period of 21 months. Then we go forward to the most recent economic crash, which was 2017, and we had basically 20% decline on the market. And this generated an awful lot of litigation, because as we went through with Mr. Alam pointing out, that sellers were guaranteed their price by the buyer, and the guaranteed price made them able to keep the deposit, and if they lost even more money than the deposit, they were able to sue for the additional amount that they had sustained. So what we saw was declines from around 920,000 to 735,000 as being the total decline from April to August in 2017. So that's a very significant drop, about a little over 20%. How long did it take to get back to it? It took a period of 22 months. Which brought us up to the end of February. And basically, we're there. And so our latest statistics show a full recovery over that period of time.
Brian, I'm going to pick up this call, and then I'll answer it. Hello. Hello. I lost it. Anyway, Brian is giving you some history about it. I was studying some forecast economic condition. As you know, the pulse of the nation has been affected because of declaration of emergency. All business shut down. So everybody is in a safe mode. That means there is no motivation to get out or do something. Until that change, because of that, federal government has given out money. They are giving out money to support. Let me pick up this call, then I'll finish my. Hello, you're live on Realty Coffee Talk. Welcome.
Hi, Tahir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So my name is Hassan. I am actually just calling with a question. So I have two questions. Number one, I'm not sure if this is something that you guys have already touched on. I haven't really been following from the beginning of the show. But the potential impact of, on the market prices and things like that. So that's the first part of my question. The second is from a legal standpoint. So in a situation where the purchaser is out of the country, the borders of the country where they are have now been shut down and they're unable to return to Canada while, the closing is approaching and it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to make it back to the country. And simultaneously, the purchaser has now been laid off and is having issues with financing. So are there any are there any options that the purchaser has in a scenario like this?
Okay, I will be able to answer your first questions about the economic, and let me have our legal lawyer, Mr. Mohammed Alam, to answer your legal issue. Okay, so I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to call him back, so you stay online. Mr. Alam? Oh, I lost him. I think I lost him. I hope that he called back. The first is the impact is that when you have a contractual deal, you have obligation. We were told that you're contractually responsible. Just 1 second. He just called back. 1 second. Hello?
Sorry, the line got disconnected.
Okay, sorry. The one question we have online is a gentleman saying that the impact about real estate, which I'm going to address that. Second thing is somebody bought a house and he got stuck overseas and he couldn't get back. And when he get back, he already lost his job, so he won't get the mortgage. What is his situation?
Sure. So the second call that we have just mentioned about the situation, that he lost the job and he did not get the mortgage.
Yes.
Again, it will be the situation where the buyer will have potentially liable for the seller if the seller was unable to sell his house at the same price, and as a result, even if, for example, in today's market he's selling for less amount than what he has agreed with this buyer, then potentially this seller will be able to sue successfully in court because of the breach of contract. Essentially, there is no thing like breach of contract can be waived off because you lost your job or you're unable to get mortgage, or even at this crisis that I'm saying COVID-19. I do not think courts are, as of now, has given instruction that they will waive off all breach of contract because of COVID-19. So as we are speaking today, all our listeners, have to be careful. They should just not rely to breach of contract just because of COVID-19. They should do their best to close their deal, and if they are unable to close their deal as agreed or as signed, then they have potentially exposed themselves to legal liability for a potential lawsuit initiated by the. Is it? Have suffered some losses.
Mr. Alam, is it possible that both parties sit down, understand the situation, and try to compromise, do a sort of a mutual release or some kind of amendment to the contract to extend the time and create a working relation to make sure that everybody is a win-win rather than taking advantage of situation?
Well, absolutely. I will tell you this. This is the best thing that for all parties, not only for sellers, but even for buyers. Both parties obviously in the situation sit down. Their real estate agents, in fact, have more responsibility around in the situation to engage the seller, seller's agent, and try to convince them and try to sort out a deal. In a sense, like if even there's some losses and that needs to be sorted out, sign a mutual release, either agreeing for a deposit seizure or some sort of amount. Because if you don't agree on this, then obviously, as I said, liability is there. So that is the first thing that you should do. If you think that the deal is going to fall through, and around the situation you have legal liability, but the buyer and the buyer agent must do to initiate that kind of discussion and bring to the table a discussion with the seller and seller's agent.
Okay, in terms of, Brian, you want to add something?
Sure. Now, out of these would be the exact same difficulties that we faced in 2017. And I was honored to be selected by a number of clients to serve as a mediator and or arbitrator to bring the buyer and the seller together with respect to a happy resolution. Well, of course, no one's entirely happy with the result because they don't always get entirely their way, but sometimes the saw-off gets the transactions completed, closed, and this buyer is not in a position where they have to pick up the entire deficiency. And the flip side to that is the seller doesn't have to spend a great deal on litigation and a 2-year process to get their money. So that had worked out reasonably well.
Absolutely, and I can add into that. Mediation is always the best, especially is the best option. Mediation result obviously is the best mediation is where the buyer and seller both are not happy with the result. That is the best mediation. And I agree with Brian. This is the best thing. And all our real estate agents, when they think the deal is selling through, the best thing is to engage in a mediation process, because litigation will be very expensive, very costly, very time-consuming, and mediation process will save all these things.
Mr. Alam, are you aware of any federal government, any new legislation they announced to mitigate the situation? Because this is universal, and across Canada, it's affecting everybody. So
yeah, but there's no such thing. There's no legislation has come across as of yet about this situation. But I will tell this: listen, you still have the potential liability. Court may consider certain situations. So, for example, let's take an example that I bought a house from Madigan today, and my closing is tomorrow. And in the situation where I'm unable to close the deal tomorrow, but if I make a reasonable request to builder, and builder deny that request, and if then builder sue me, then court will look into account of unreasonable denial for extension.
yes.
But if I simply tell builder that I'm going to buy this deal, then probably it will not be helpful for me.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. In terms of the impact of the real estate, I will mention that, I will address that. I was reading a Deloitte report recently, and they're saying is that this quarter, which has already been impacted because as the emergency was declared, which hindered ability of real estate professionals to help buy and sell houses, it slowed down, completely shut down the sale. What already been signed and already been in the process of completion, those are the ones where we have challenges, because if somebody bought a house because subject to sale of their house, if they're conditional, they're safe. If they bought a house without any condition, they are in trouble, according to Mr. Alam. Now, report says that the worst will be the next quarter, which is second quarter. Second quarter will be because there is no activity take place. In real estate, when we take a holiday for 1 month, normally it impacts us for 3 to 4 months before we get to see any money, because transaction take 60 to 90 days to close. So I'm expecting that the second quarter will be a tough one, and hopefully coronavirus, if everybody stay home and be safe, and we stop the spread of coronavirus, then third quarter we expect that a recovery should begin, because federal government is giving $2,000 for 4 months to people who are not eligible for EI, or they're not getting enough money, or they're supporting their family or sick one. So they are putting a lot of effort. So these are stimulant packages which are helping to continue the activity at a minimum level, so it doesn't completely shut down everybody. But we are hoping that third quarter of this year, we will be entering into the positive, and fourth quarter will be normal as usual. So this is based on the report that I studied from Deloitte come out. So I hope that I answered your question, my friend. Okay, so this end the conversation here. Now we are issue about impact of the economy. So since everything is shut down now, nobody doing any business except essential services.
Yes.
So people are losing jobs, people are laying off. That's the question I'm going to ask Alam and you as well. Lots of people are laying off people for temporarily, and there is an issue of any constructive dismissal under this condition. So I have to pick up a phone call before I ask you to answer that, Mr. Alam. 1 second.
Okay, sure.
Hello? Hello, you are on a live Realty Coffee Talk. Welcome.
Okay, hello. I want to talk to the real estate guy, Muhammad Azim. I want to know what happens if somebody is trying to damage our property. So what can we do?
You have to please turn off. You have to turn off your TV on the back so I can talk to you.
Okay, just a minute, please. I'll turn off. Just give me a minute.
Ask you to answer that, Mr. Alam. 1 second. Okay, sure. Hello?
Hello? What is your question,
Hello?
please? Yes, you are live on Realty Coffee Talk.
Okay, my question is for Mr. Muhammad. I want to know what if some of my neighbors are damaging my property. So what can I do?
Damaging your property?
Yes, they are damaging my property.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask Mr. Alam to answer your question. It's a very vague question. How they are damaging your property? Can you explain that?
By putting water, they're using water and they're damaging my water.
Is
and
it
they are smoke.
his property is tenanted or somebody is living there?
Somebody is living there. We are living here. Now and then, and downstairs neighbors are trying to damage my property. And they have smoke when they're cooking. Too much smoke comes in my drapes. Everything is damaged.
I think
So what can I do?
so the best thing will be you will be able to call back. I think you should talk to Mr. Alim, and you can call our Awaz Entertainment. Will give you name of the lawyer. You can talk to him. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Mr. Alam. Mr. Alam, can you hear me? Mr. Alam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but while you put me on hold, so I could not hear any question from the caller.
Okay. The lady asked if somebody was damaging their property while living there, how she would deal with it. So I told her that we'll call us back so we can give you the phone number of Mr. Alam so you can help her out.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are specific questions, and I can answer them after the program.
Yes.
That's nothing to do with the issue.
Yes.
Do you want me to answer the question that you have raised about laying off?
Yes, please. That's very important because it's affecting
Absolutely.
the economy and people. Yes.
So I'll tell you that, based on one current legislation, my understanding is that, employers are free to to give layoffs if they don't have job, if the economy is not good, if they don't have work. Even especially in today's circumstances, I do not believe that this can come under constructive dismissal, or anybody can argue general layoff by an employer into constructive dismissal, because constructive dismissal should be very specific about certain cases. But if an employer can show today that, listen, I do not have saved, the money is not coming up, I do not need 50 people, and he's laying off, and unless you can show that employer is not motivated by anything else other than the job is not there, I do not think that can be a constructive dismissal. That will be plainly a laying off, and the government benefits will be available for those who are laid off.
Okay. So because there was a discussion about layoff, because right now the government of Canada is providing about $1,375 per employee for, I believe, I don't know the number of weeks, but they also come up with a $2,000 per month for 4 months. So is that, if somebody lays off because of the government incentive and employee agrees to it, would that be treated differently than just a cooperation? I believe that the employee should have a good conversation with the employer, and somehow they can reduce the number of hours, so everybody works until they get some support from the government, and pass the time until everything can get normal.
Well, that's the ideal, but the government package that the government has announced for the employer, not to that's payroll subsidy that the government has approved up to 25,000 or 10% of the payroll. That is subject to a $1,375 per employee. So if you have, for example, 20 employees, times 20 will be, for example, $26,000. That amount will be up to maximum 25,000 will be available to you as an employer if you're not firing employee and if your employee are continue working for you. That subsidy is only for the employer. But if you lay off all the employees, then you will not be able to get the benefit from the government as an employer.
Okay, I have another question about this. When we have a bank that give you a mortgage commitment, based on that, the buyer has removed the condition.
Right.
For God's sake, this emergency situation, like the one caller mentioned that he was stuck overseas and finally came in, and the bank said, oh, you lost the job now, you don't get the money from us. So what kind of a mortgage lender have an obligation, morally or ethically, toward a commitment that they signed, because these are unknown situation and it's an emergency in the country right now. So what kind of obligation, ethically, morally, these lenders, I know the lenders are only money makers.
But this is what I'm saying. It's about legal obligation. They don't have any legal obligation, because when they sign or they give you a commitment, they give commitment based on certain assumption of fact. And if that fact is not there anymore, the lender can say, sorry, you don't have job, we're not going to give you land. They have no legal obligation. But, about ethically or morally, whether or not they should make some accommodation, obviously, a banker or a mortgage company can answer this question, whether or not they are willing to extend that hand under current circumstances.
Brian, you want to add something to it, please? You're very experienced.
Yes, well, just on these situations, because this arose in 2017, we've had an opportunity to practice with this, and a couple of financial institutions have fundamentally said, if we give you a commitment, no matter what happens, we will honor it and we will not take it back. Previous to that, they all operated on the assumption that they could pull the plug right up to the very last moment. So going forward with this, it would be very helpful to do business with one of those particular financial institutions. One of the things is the value is likely to be there going forward in the future. And if someone has a good, reliable job, then that should be fine. They should be all right. What we really need is the relief to the individual who is in a precarious position, has suddenly lost their job. Take, for example, an airline pilot who may be laid off and be on reduced payments right now. But if we go forward and there's tremendous devastation in the transportation industry, we could find that that pilot is simply downsized. Now, on the good side to that is they may be entitled to a sizable severance, and it might be that the severance is all they need to go forward. On the other hand, there are other individuals who are in public service, for example, police officers, firefighters, nurses, doctors, who are not without work. In fact, they've never had more work. And so they're working double time and a half, and they're going to find themselves able to take advantage of the market if there's a little dip in prices. Devastating area, which I would look at, would be the restaurant industry. And it's very, very sad to see so many all out of business temporarily. All of those waiters and waitresses and kitchen staff laid off unless they can continue to some degree. There probably won't be a need for the economy to support as many restaurants as we've had in the past. It's very unfortunate. So how they'll survive, I don't know.
It really is. Back to your community center, wedding halls,
yes,
all activity, because there is no money coming in, no money being spent. So
yes,
obviously this is what we are facing dilemma right now, and definitely, and it's a fact. Realtor also, because we are self-employed and we don't have an EI. And I was wondering whether our organized real estate institutions are asking government to support us on this self-employee or contractor. Yes. I thought there was some provision there.
Yes, I believe that the self-employed are covered off with a demonstration that you had earned an income last year of $5,000 or more, and then you would qualify for these $2,000 a month for 4 months payments.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. I hope that we need to find out a little bit more about it. Now the other thing is regarding the deferred mortgage. I don't know whether Mr. Alam, you are dealing with right now. You have any deal where the people have come to you for some guidance because they cannot pay mortgage right now. They are seeking deferred mortgage payment plan announced by the federal government. But I am hearing very disturbing stories that people are not being able to get that, or is costing them more money. So do you, or maybe Brian, you can share something about that, if you have experience, or maybe Mr. Alam, we all can talk about it?
Sure.
So very briefly, I can tell you, Tahir, the deferred mortgage option is available. But again, you know what? Maybe there are a lot of chaos in all the financial institutions. Their directions within the organization are not properly passed on to the customer services representatives. When you call, for example, TD, you may end up speaking to somebody who is not confident, who does not have proper instructions. But I have seen some of our clients calling banks, and the banks were able to extend the deferral payment for month to month. So that's available, but there are possibilities. Some banks, some clients may find themselves that speaking to the bank and they are not agree, or they are not giving clear direction. But it all depends on which bank you call at the time. because information may not be as clear within the banking staff. But that's available, and I've seen other people getting some deferral.
I think the bank is probably concerned with people who are on the edge because they maximize their loan-to-value mortgages. They have lots of debts, and they're trying to get extension under this emergency situation, and their ability to pay their mortgage was in jeopardy or at the verge of collapse regardless of it. Is that the reason they're checking their credits and verifying everything, Brian?
Very, very much so. So someone who has a $500,000 mortgage on $1 million property, the banks really don't have to worry that much about it. But all of a sudden, if there's a $900,000 mortgage and the individual on a $1 million property and the individual was the owner of a restaurant, now we suddenly have a problem.
Is it equity based?
Yes, so it's with the expectation on the bank's part that we could find that the property value will not sustain itself over the next period of time. And so in 2017, we saw a 20% decrease. So with a $900,000 mortgage, we can find a bank with an $800,000 property. They're going to be most reluctant to go along with a 6-month deferral. And I can appreciate that it's a very sad situation for the restaurant owner who has that mortgage. And that might be their personal mortgage on their own house. But it's just an extremely difficult situation that we find ourselves in at the moment.
So, Mr. Allen, your client has approached you about this challenge regarding the mortgage, other than the closing challenges that you might be facing recently?
No, we have been approached by a few clients, and they were successfully able to speak to their bank, and they got some deferral on their payment. But as Brian was saying, the bank will also probably look at your property, and they just do not want to give deferral. I do not know what will be the implication, whether or not government legislation, I have to yet to see the legislation, whether or not it's mandatory for all the banks, unconditional to defer all the payments, or there are certain conditions. The bank obviously, but they want to protect their interests, and banks do not want, as Brian was saying as an example, the property value is $1 million and your mortgage is $900,000. And bank look at you as an employee of at a restaurant or owner of a restaurant. They know that there will be difficult challenges for this person to pay, and maybe this person will not pay for a few months and just give the property back to the bank.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a licensed mortgage broker, so I can talk about a little bit. When you get a mortgage, in normal case, if you are putting 5% down and a first-time buyer, you don't have much equity in your line of credit or the mortgage, because you use, in fact, CMHC high ratio mortgage, and you pay maybe $25,000, $30,000 for that. So you don't have any equity. There is no legal way to delay that payment if you lose a job. You are the most riskiest person. Now, the bank in normal conventional mortgage will give you up to 80% of the loan to value amount. Let's assume you have $1 million house and you have a $500,000 mortgage, like Brian said. So there is a leeway of $300,000 which you can get a line of credit. But if you use all line of credit, you only lose $500,000. There is no more money available to the bank for protection. Bank will keep 20% of his leverage or to protection for themselves. So there is a difficulty unless you have an increase of income or some other reason to support yourself. Maybe that's what the people are getting a problem here, that they have maximized their credibility and they don't have a lot of room there.
Certainly that would be the case. The relief is 6 months. And it's not forgiveness, it's simply a deferral in terms of payments. So someone would be wise to keep their mortgage payments going rather than this really helps out someone who suddenly finds themselves short of cash and without any income at all.
Yeah, Brian, the other thing is that when mostly bank that I learned, they are charging the interest, but the principal are the one they are deferring it later. So that means that the principal that you're supposed to get
Yes.
is the one that they're deferring it. Interest they are still charging.
But I don't think you have to make the payment, do you?
That's what they're saying is
Okay.
they still have to pay the interest, otherwise bank will have no revenue. And that's the clarity that we need from the banks and the government distribution department. So we are almost close to our topic. Again, Mr. Alam, we thank you very much for coming on board and asking some questions, and we will share your contact information with people who have called us.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and we're going to continue to finish our conversation. So this is for specific for the realtor. Thank you very much. For realtors, we have to do some work to do how to conduct our business.
Yes.
So we can't just stop and doing anything because we cannot show any houses because there is a risk of liability. We have to use more virtual tours.
Yes.
And digital floor plan and electronic signature. You don't need to get to see the client. You can use electronic and also transfer funds when we are making commission. Yesterday, I first time used wire transfer money to pay my surplus fund to my client, and tonight I'm going to pay commission to the cooperative broker electronically.
And these are opportunities that have been available for years, but it wasn't well adopted by the industry. Yeah. And so there are situations now where we can make things certainly more efficient, which is a very positive step forward.
And since we are slowing down a little bit right now, this is the best opportunity for realtors to sign up for some designation program and spend some time in further education, enhancing your capabilities, skill set, knowledge, which will be helpful to you dealing with real estate in the future. Also, maybe you spend some time communicating with your clients and finding out how they're doing and creating a rapport and building relationships. So what do you think about that?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about it is right at this particular point in time in our society, I find everyone extremely friendly. So your opportunity to call past clients, if you haven't spoken to them for a while, this is just a great opportunity. Where are they? They're sitting at home, not wishing to watch another episode of whatever it is that they've got on TV. So reacquainting with people is a great opportunity, and long term, it's just great for society that opportunity arises.
You know, this is amazing because this is the first time that everybody is staying home because it's safe.
Yes.
You are helping the cause of not spreading the coronavirus, and it will pass. The time will pass. Together, we can do it together and defeat this coronavirus as a fellow Canadian. We need to be optimistic, cooperative, and not going out unnecessarily. We are doing a public service, that's why we are present, and we want to take this opportunity to thank you for watching Realty Coffee Talk. We will continue to broadcast this